The following book was written by Berossus or Berossus, who was a Chaldean priest of Bel in the 3rd century. He wrote 3 books. Most of his works are said to be lost. But yet, thanks to other historians, many of his writings are saved through citations and quotes by other historians, like Abidanus, Apollodorus, Josephus, Syncellus, Eusebius and Alexander Polyhistor. The history of this video comes from this book, which is kept in British Museum Library. Anyone can ask for a copy by paying some fees, but you can read this book for free. Thanks to a person who has purchased a copy and has published the copy on a site. I hope that you will take some time and read this very important book, because it is not found anywhere else except this site and the British Library. Berosus writes, before flood Noah lived in the first city of the world called Enos, the city that was built by Cain, son of Adam, and it was located near Syria, Libaus mountain, Jerusalem and Phoenicia. The city was populated with many people, deformed and giants. Those giants had imposed tyranny over people and did to them whatever pleases them. Those giants spend all their days making for themselves shields, armors and weapons. At that time there were many astrologers and soothsayers, who had predicted the coming destruction of the world, and those prophecies were engraved into pillars and marble monuments in their time. The first destruction was meant to happen by water and the second by fire. Important information and hints before we go further. The ruins of the city of Enos was discovered and seen even after the universal flood for a couple of hundred years. Few historians, including Bērossus, have seen the ruins and 2 pillars that were planted by descendants of Seth, announcing the first destruction of the world by water, and the second destruction by fire to the future generations. Berossus writes that Noah was a good giant and feared God. Him and his wife Tetia preserved the laws given by God, and they transferred the same to their children. Sem, Ham, Japhet were real nice boys and had great manners. Just like their father, they respected the Creator. Noah, by God's command and also science of astrology, started to build a ship, because he was chosen by Creator to preserve humanity. On April 18, Noah, who was 600 years old, entered the ark, and the world drowned. Noah and his family were saved when the ship by plans of God rested in Armenia on a mountain called Gordiacus, or Ararat, and here we have given dates by Berossus, who tells us this happened 830 years before foundation of Troy, and 2317 years before the birth of Christ. Now Noah was the monarch of the universe. He found himself a marble and engraved and set down the universal flood as a historical event. This stone is preserved in Armenia, and it is called Miriadum, meaning issue of Adam, by inhabitants of Armenia to this day. Noah begot 30 children from his wife Titia after the flood, 1 giant called Tuiskon and 16 titans, which all were giants: Prometheus, Japetus, Macru, Granos, Oceanus and Typhoeus. And Iraxa, one of her daughters, was so named the Great, Regina, Pandora, Crana and Thetis. In Armenia, Noah taught his children sacred theology, religion and holy sacrifices, the human manners, secrets of nature, and he composed few books himself. Those books were preserved by Scythian and Armenian priests. Noah was loved and respected by everyone. Scythians called him the Scythian Zogyges, which means great patriarch, sovereign priest and mighty sacrificer. And Bērossus affirms that he also instructed astrology and course of the planets and divided years into 12 months. He was the creator of lunar calendar. He also instructed them how to forecast the coming weather of succeeding years. People were surprised with his knowledge. Some even thought that he deserves the same honor as God, and for that reason, he is called Olubama and Asa, meaning heaven and sun, the virtue of our true God. They even gave name of Noah and his wife to many places and cities. They were honored for their virtues and knowledge of God. Noah instructed them agriculture and tillage of the ground, and the usage of grape seeds and how to plant vines and other things for better living. For that reason they called him Janus, which means giver of wine. Among all children of Noah and Ham, Cam practiced the art of magic, and for that reason he was called Zoroaster. Noah was very upset to see Ham practicing magery. And Berossus also tells us what Ham did to his father by art of magic when Noah was drunk. You will be given a link at the end of the video to go and read it for yourselves. By then humankind had multiplied and they were obliged to go and seek for new habitations. Noah, as head of mankind, chose from amongst them men and women to leave Armenia and go find themselves new lands, make villages, countries and multiply. He assigned kings and divided the world between his 3 sons. The meaning of the names of the 3 sons of Noah: Sem means famous, Cam means subtlety and craft, Japheth means liberty and freedom. To Sem, surnamed Melchizedek, he gave the Asia the Great, considered as half of the world. Sem built the city of Salem, which is called Jerusalem, and he lived there with 25 rulers and his descendants. We are told that Sem lived there even until the time of Abraham. Japhet received Europe, and he went there with his descendants and 14 rulers. Cam, despite being out of grace of his father, he received his own portion as well, the other third part of the world. "100 years after universal flood, before the division of the world, Noah taught his children cosmography, and took his 3 sons on top of a mountain and showed to Sem all Asian seas, formed by a flood called Tanais and Tartaria, which runs all the way to Egypt. To Cam he showed all the rivers streaming from seas of Africa and run through Egypt, and from Egypt to the Straits of Gibraltar, and to Japhet all the rivers and floods of Europe, that passes from straits, and goes into Spain, France and Italy and other countries around it. The first monarchy of the world was Babylon, ruled by the Nemrod or Nimrod the giant, the son of Cus or Cush, who was the son of Cam. Babylon was erected 130 years after universal flood. Nimrod was called the first Satanic king by Assyrians and Babylonians. Nimrod erected the Great Tower in the city of Babel. This tower was very high, and Nimrod wanted it to be even higher than the highest mountain, but with confusion of languages the project remained unfinished. After the fall of Babel, Nimrod lived in peace for 56 years. Many years after Babylon, Noah divided 4 particular kingdoms in Europe: Italy, Spain, France and Germany. Semiramis Gallus, the eldest and 15th son of Japhet, reigned in Italy. In Spain, Tubal, also called Jubal, the fifth son of Japhet. Sammuth's surnamed named Dis, who was Japhet's fourth son, reigned in France, and he assigned Tuaskon the Giant, his own son, to reign in Germany. And at the same time, he erected many other kingdoms, gave them laws and asked them to call the kingdoms after their own name, including mountains, rivers, in order for the succeeding generations to know who were their ancestors. After this, all these kingdoms and governments, Earth began to populate. Noah traveled back to Europe to visit his children and see how are things, but before leaving, he assigned Sabbatius Saga, also titled Saturn like his brother Nimrod, in charge of Armenia until his return. Here we discover that even the brother of Nimrod was honored as Saturn, and also that Armenia was kingdom of Noah. Noah and Tetia continued traveling, and creating kingdoms, villages, cities. This Sabbatius Saga had all the countries that reached to Bactria, attached to India, which is known as Tartaria. Noah arrives to Mesopotamia, and leaves many people behind who were asked to stay there and build, and from there he went to Arabia Felix, and erected two cities, called one Noah and the other Ioannina, and populated them. From there he went to Africa, which was a part of Cam's kingdom, and at that time Triton the son of Saba, who was son of Cus, was ruler of it. Triton was so happy to see Noah, and he received him with great hospitality, and Noah stayed with him for 6 months, and during this time, Triton died and Haman inherited the kingdom of Africa, also called Libya. "259 years after flood, Noah arrived to Spain. Jubal, the first son of Japhet, received his grandfather and grandmother with joy." Berossus writes that Jubal governed his people with great justice, politics and good laws, and Noah was happy to see all working fine for him. In Spain, Noah named two cities, calling one Nola and the other Noegla, in remembrance and honor of his two wives of Japhet and Cam. Then he went to Italy, to visit Commodus Gallus, the first son of Japhet, whom he had appointed as a king. But he was dead, and instead he found Hamacam reigning in his place. According to this history, we retain that Ham, not contented with his own kingdom of Africa, had already been reigning in Italy since couple of years with the help of some people called Aborigines, that he had brought along with him and installed them in Italy. And this act of Ham was contrary to the appointment of Noah. Noah found Italy in a very bad shape, comparing to the other places in Europe. I am not going to go through details, but I will invite you to go read it for yourselves. Noah spent 3 years with Ham in Italy, trying to change things to better, by changing Ham first, but it was useless, and at the end he was obliged to banish Ham and certain number of people with him, and Ham moved to Sicilia. Noah took Italy under his own hand and started to put things back in its order. According to the book, this happened about 212 years after the flood. He also ordered the Aborigines to leave the country and install over the river Tiber, which once was called Ianiculum, which they accepted and asked to be governed by Crana, one of the daughters of Noah. And those who remained in Italy were called Aenegenes, after his own name. Note: this is second time that I see Noah giving this name as his own name. Noah built a city on the other side of Tiber River towards Tuscania, a beautiful city on top of the mountain, and named it Ianiculum. That city was later called Vaticanum, and since it is called the town of St. Peter of Rome, where in our days stands the St. Peter's Church. Note: Vatican is built on that ancient city of Noah, and the Pope's palace on to this day is called Belvedere, means the fair fight. Then he populated and built few cities around a river called Arnus, a river that runs through Florence, then goes to Sardinia, and after accomplishing all this, he instructed people in sciences of physics, astronomy and divinity. He also taught them the ceremonies and customs belonging to holy sacrifices, and he also wrote several books about his teachings. As I mentioned before, Noah had left Sabatius Saga, surnamed Saturn, in the charge of Armenia before his trip, and Saga governed Armenia in peace and harmony until the reign of Jupiter Belus, son of Nimrod. Note: Nimrod had title of Saturn as his brother Saga, who was assigned to govern Armenia in Noah's absence. The first Jupiter Belus of Babylon was son of Nimrod, who became the second king of Babylon after Nimrod. This Jupiter Belus, after becoming king, now wanted to be king of the whole world as well, and he was the first person to violate and break all the laws. And he put up an end to the Golden Age as mentioned by many ancient historians. After this, everything known to men as common, peace and freedom disappeared. One of the plans of Jupiter Belus was to get rid of his uncle Saga Sabatius and his entire family, and for that he turned to his own son, Ninus, for help. Saturn Saga, after discovering what Jupiter Belus was up to, he had no other choice left but to escape. He fled to Italy to find his grandfather Noah, for protection. Note: the Roman 3rd century AD poet Virgil, in his Poets, which was another way of describing the history, writes, Saturn was banished heaven by Jupiter. Noah welcomed Saga with a great honor, and in order to prove to him his friendship and goodwill, assigned him as king of over a different category of Aborigines and built a city for Saga and named him after him, Saturnia. And this new city was Nea Janiculum, the city built by Noah after his own title, which is part of Rome even in our days. Note: the title of Noah is not Ianculum but Janiculum. Janus and Saturn reign together. As you can see it for yourselves, all these historical places exist even in our days. Note: the title of Noah is not Ianculum but Janiculum. Janus and Saturn reign together. At that time, Tetia the Great, Noah's wife, began to form order of nuns and ceremonies of Vestal virgins, which required setting up lights and lamps in the churches and temples dedicated to virginity and chastity. This ceremony was highly respected at those days, even at the time of Romans. Note: ancient historians have written about this ceremony, but unfortunately later on, many years after Noah, with paganism gaining the ground, this ceremony was twisted and corrupted, and in some cases the virgins which were in charge of surveying the lamps lost their lives, if the lamps were found without any burning fire. Now let's go back to the subject of our video. Saga. Saturn began to instruct people tillage, the nature of soils, and the ceremonies of religion. After his death, Sabus was assigned to take over the kingdom of Aborigines and Sabines. Saga. Saturn died 344 years after the flood. At the same year, Noah felt that his end is approaching as well. He assigned one of his own sons, called Cranus, as the king of and patriarch over the Janagines, which in our days is called Tuscans. And he departed from this world and gave up his noble and heroic spirit to his Maker, and this happened 346 years after the flood. Noah reigned in Italy many years and died at the age of 950 years old. The death of this king and patriarchy made almost everyone around the world sad, especially the Armenians and Italians, who in most honorable manner celebrated his obsequies with all the rites and ceremonies. Noah was given many different titles after his death, like Son, the Heaven, the Seed of the World, the Father of Gods, the Soul of the World, the God of Peace, the Giver of Justice and Holiness, the Expulser of Things Hurtful, and the children and successors of Noah were called Janus, Geminus, Quaerissans, Enetrius, Ogyges, Vertumnus, Vardaemon, Protheus, Multices, Despiter, and Jupiter. They invented all manners of honors, including strange ways to worship Noah. They also shaped his pictures into divers stones. They also made images of Noah with 2 and 4 faces. The 2 faces represented his wisdom and knowledge on everything and every matter, and his 4 faces stone represented the 4 seasons of the years. Since he was the one who divided the months into 4 seasons, Phoenicians represented Noah in form of a dragon biting his tail, to show the roundness beginning and end of the year. To this day the first month of the year is called Januarius, after Noah. Servius has recorded that Noah was creator of keys and gates. That is why he is represented with 2 keys in his hands. He invented doors and keys to lock and protect the holy temples and sacred places from being polluted or robbed. As ancients had dedicated temples and sacred places to Noah, they did the same for Titia after her death. She was called Vesta, Arete. Propertius, another ancient poet and historian, writes that, without any doubt, no one has been honored and worshipped as God as much as Noah. In those very ancient times there were so many gods held and worshipped among ancients, because those who ruled and governed justly, godly, and treated their people with equality and uprightness were treated like gods, without any idolatrous adoration unto them. Note: but unfortunately after death of Noah, the idolatry reached its peak and it took another form. And Ovid writes that the Golden Age died with Noah.